This is a really quick fix. So this is not only a great thing to do on the weekends, but you can throw this together during the week. I promise. 10-15 minutes, dinner is done, and you are going to look like a rock star because it's just that easy. And I'm going to show you how to make a wonderful pan sauce with the drippings from these pork chops. So the first thing is went to the grocery store, got some beautiful pork chops from Festival Foods, and I want to season up those chops real well with salt and pepper. And you know this is that mixture of 1 cup of kosher salt with 1 tablespoon of coarsely ground black pepper. We mix those together, keep them near your stove, and it just makes seasoning things so easy. I'm also going to do a little bit of fresh thyme. Now, if you don't have fresh thyme, dried thyme would work, but dried thyme is very, well, let's just say it's very strong. It's potent, much more potent dried herbs are in most cases than fresh herbs. So cut back if you're using dried thyme. Fresh thyme, though, wow, there's just nothing like that flavor. It just smells so good. So season both sides. I'm getting some olive oil into the biggest skillet you have. And then I'm going to get these pork chops in there. And I want that skillet to be smoking hot so I can get some nice brown color on the pork chops. So let's see if this is hot enough. And this is how I do it. I usually will do 1 chop, test it out, and see if I'm going to get that sizzle that I'm looking for. And I am. Yay! We got the sizzle in. And always season both sides. These are really thick chops. Now here's the good news. You don't have to cook pork as long as you used to. Internal temperature, pork producers have lowered it to 145. So, you know, it used to be we'd cook pork forever and a day, and I always get questions about how do you keep the pork chops nice and juicy. Well, there's a few things that you can do. One of them is don't overcook them. Number 2, get nice thicker chops, although they are going to take longer to cook. 3, have some sort of a sauce to go with your pork chops, which I like anyway, and that way if they do get a little dry, you've got that sauce, and also just tastes really great. And then sometimes, especially if you're grilling pork chops, I like to marinate pork chops, and that's another way to keep them nice and tender. So there'll be a quiz on that later. Did you get all that? Got it. Oh, I'm just kidding. But really, the key is to not overcook them. So, you know, you don't always have to get the thick chops. In fact, if you're in a hurry and you really want to get dinner to the table quickly, do the thinner chops, but just don't overcook them. And I always love a sauce with pork chops, especially. I'm a big fan of any sauces with chicken, steak, anything, but really love them with pork chops. I'm going to get a little more time on these chops. And today's show is all about cranberry, so I wanted to talk for a minute about some fun cranberry facts. And in just a little bit, we're actually going to take you out to the harvest and watch them harvest the cranberries. It is so cool to see. You know, I think a lot of people, when they think Wisconsin, me included, think cheese, sausage, beer, potatoes, Door County cherries, but you don't necessarily think about cranberries. We're actually one of the top producers of cranberries in the country. Cranberries were first harvested in Wisconsin way back in 1860 by a guy named Edward Sackett, and that happened actually in Berlin, Wisconsin. Cranberries are now grown in 20 different counties throughout central and northern Wisconsin. So, you know, when you're drinking cranberry juice or eating cranberries at Thanksgiving, yeah, chances are they might have come right from Wisconsin. So I just want to flip these over. Yeah, that is what I'm looking for. Some great color on these chops. And also, you may be noticing some wonderful brown bits. I'm going to add a little more oil. Pork is so lean these days, but sometimes you need some more olive oil in there to really get it, you know, get it going. What was I talking about? I don't know. But it's true. The pork producers have really worked on making pork so nice and lean that basically sometimes you need to add, even if I'm doing sausage, I might need to add a little little olive oil to get it going. But I'm creating some wonderful pan drippings, and those pan drippings are going to make the best sauce. Now for this recipe, I'm going to use whole berry cranberry sauce, 1 can of it. This is not the jellied kind, but they put them right next to each other at the grocery store. So make sure and get the whole berry cranberry sauce, 1 can of that. And I'm just going to open that up. And it's a very, very simple recipe. A little bit of mustard, a little bit of chicken stock, and that's it. But the key is really to brown those chops and get some color on them, because you really can't go back. You know, if they're hanging out in your pan and they're more of a gray, then get them out of the pan and put more oil in there and start over. You really want to go for the colors. These look fantastic. They smell so, so good. And sometimes these are so nice and thick, don't be afraid to kind of turn them over on the sides. Now I have to talk a little bit about fruit and pork and fruit and meat and why they really work well together. You know, I think when people think cranberry, they think desserts. You know, that's automatically maybe what you think of. But really think about using cranberry and cranberry sauce in more of your savory recipes. You know, pork chops have always gone well with apples. You know, pork chops and applesauce. That's something I grew up with. Whenever we had pork chops, we had a bowl of applesauce on the sitting on the dining room table. And there's actually a reason for that. Way back in the day, when they'd serve meat, you know, it was so dry that they were trying to, you know, come up with ways that would make it, you know, digest easier. And basically they started, you know, serving fruit with pork and chicken and things like that. And that's how that whole thing, that whole tradition got started. So think something besides apples, though. Think cranberries. Cranberries are also go great with chicken breasts. So, you know, you could do this exact same recipe that we're doing today, and instead of using pork chops, you could use chicken. Okay, so I want to get these out of the pan. They're gorgeous. Got some great color on both sides. And I want to let them rest a little bit. And they'll also continue to cook a little bit on the plate. So I'm just going to cover them with foil. And I want to do something called deglaze the pan. And that is all these great brown bits on the bottom. That is not burned. That is goodness. So I'm deglazing the pan with a little bit of chicken stock. And when you go out to the restaurants and you go get some sort of pork or chicken or steak, and they've got some sort of wonderful sauce, normally that sauce is made from the drippings in the pan. And you can do it at home. And once you get into the swing of doing it, you'll just do it all the time. So don't just go wash that pan right away. Think about using the drippings of the pan and deglazing that pan. Use a wooden spoon and you just get up the great brown bits. And it just is so easy to make different pan sauces and with different flavors. Chicken stock, wine, great things to, you know, deglaze the pan and get those drippings up. Okay, now we're going to add our cranberry sauce. And this is again the whole berry. 1 can, just get it in there. I'm just going to whisk that together. Smells delicious. And then another ingredient I'm going to do is a few tablespoons of Dijon mustard. I don't want to use the yellow mustard, that's too much. This is just perfect, and I love this squeeze bottle rocks because you don't really need to measure. You know, I do about 1 to 2 tablespoons, and That's about it. Squeeze it, into the refrigerator it goes. We're about at the home stretch here. So I'm just going to chop up some parsley and finish off this sauce. Sometimes, if I want to be naughty, I'll finish off the sauce with a little pat of butter or two, just at the very end, just to really make it nice and rich. But that's up to you. And I've got some flat leaf parsley. Always, when you're cooking or adding, parsley to a sauce or a dish, you want to go for the flat leaf or Italian parsley. You never want to use the curly parsley. That stuff's just for decorating the plate, and that's about all it's good for. I'm going to take the pork chops and any kind of the pan drippings that have accumulated on this plate and get them back in here. And they'll just finish cooking. And get every little last bit of it. Thanks, Ann. And then, if it gets too thick on you, you can certainly add a little more chicken stock. What would I serve this with? Well, cranberries and wild rice go wonderfully together, so just cook up a box or two of wild rice. Also would be great with mashed potatoes, maybe some green beans. And that really is a nice fall meal. Or any time of year, actually. All right, just going to add when you're adding fresh herbs, you just always want to do that at the very end. And we're going to plate this up, as they say in the restaurant biz. Got a nice pretty white plate. Get those gorgeous chops, kind of line them up. They are beautiful. Just want to make sure they're all nice and covered with sauce. Got a spoon. And that sauce kind of thickens up. And then you can garnish if you'd like. I always like to garnish with what we had in the dish, so maybe a little bit of fresh thyme and a few cranberries kind of scattered about. So there you go, it's my pork chops in cranberry sauce, and I told you, this is so easy and so yummy. Recipes on our website. You can also get it at any Festival Foods. Enjoy.